The Vulgate is usually credited as being one of the first translations of the Old Testament into Latin directly from the Hebrew Tanakh, rather than the Greek Septuagint. It was Saint Jerome, who in 382 AD translated the Hebrew term Hallel to Lucifer, although it is evident that Lucifer was a translation of the Septuagint Greek Leosphoros, dawn-bearer, Greek phosphorus, light-bearer. Lucifer is a Latin name. In Roman astronomy, Lucifer was the name given to the morning star, Venus. The name derives from the Latin term, lucem ferae, bringer, or bearer, of light. Early Christian scribes writing in Latin, as was used by the Church, interpreted the verse to mean a fallen angel. This venereal desire is by the poets called Urania and Olympia, because it proceeds from heaven, namely, from the sun, the chief ruler in heaven. And to show that by Venus they meant the sun, as he is the god of love, they speak of her in the masculine gender, so doeth Virgil. They paint her with a beard, hence Venus Barata, to show the sunbeams. They gave her the epithets of the sun, in calling her golden Venus, so doeth Virgil, Venus, Aurelia. And by the Greek poets, golden Aphrodite, and by the Eastern people she was called Baalath Shamarjim, the ruler of heaven, and Phosphorus or Lucifer, from the light of the sun, which Venus or the moon borroweth. So what Orpheus in Hymis speaks of Venus, is to be understood of the sun, that is, thou procreates all things in heaven, in the earth and in the sea or depths. She is called fair-haired, to show the beauty of the sunbeams. Even though the ancient Semites realized that the evening and morning star were different manifestations of the same entity, they looked upon the planet as male in the morning and female in the evening. Hence the Romans spoke of the morning star as Lucifer, the light-bearer, who became the feminine Venus of the evening sky. The glow of dawn's early light was personified, in antiquity, as a goddess, the manifestation of Ishtar Venus in the morning, who victoriously gave birth to the wondrous male child, the morning star, who in turn became transformed into the rising sun. Lucifer was known amongst the ancients as the herald of day, the bright and beautiful harbinger of light. Because none of the Eastern nations take the name of Venus from the root HLL, though the Arabs do that of the moon, which they call Halal. Halal is in its form more like to the verb, meaning to howl or give praise, than to a noun, and accordingly the Syriac translation renders it Halel, howl or praise, and even Jerome on the place observes that it literally means howl or praise. Venus, the morning star, who on account of her beauty was by most nations reckoned feminine, should have rather have been called daughter, than son, of the morning. If the morning star had been meant, it would have been more proper to say, thou hast grown pale, as the stars do on the approach of the sun, and last of all, the morning star, but by no means, thou hast fallen from heaven, since that star is never so much elevated above the horizon, that it has far to fall. Lucifer is in the original Hebrew named Hallel, the shining, the brilliant, a name which has no affinity with any extant of the planet Venus, though much with many names of the sun, as Hel, in Phoenician, Heli, in Sanskrit, and Helios, in Greek. Lucifer, according to the poets, was the son of Jupiter and Aurora. Lucerius, in mythology, a name given to Jupiter, as Luceria was given to Juno, these being considered as the deities who gave light to the world. Lucetius, as an epithet, belongs to Jupiter. As the idol Jupiter among the Romans had different names and different rites of worship, occasioned sometimes from the different benefits which he was thought to bestow upon men, as Jupiter Pluvius, because he gave rain, Jupiter Lucetius because he gave light. Jupiter not only represented heaven, but also the sun. Lucifer, son of Jupiter. In the cuneiform text of the Ira myth, Marduk is called Shulpe, the name of Jupiter in the early morning, and there can be little doubt that Hallel is a transcription of a Babylonian title of Marduk Jupiter, El-Il, the Shining One. Marduk is the spring sun, Ninib is the summer sun, Nebo the autumn sun, and Nergal the winter sun. Marduk was finally as definite a spring equinox sun god as Amen-Ra in Egyptian mythology was a summer solstice sun god. Marduk, the early sun, rises daily. Marduk, as early sun of the day and the year. As to the sun god Marduk, then he represents the sun at the vernal equinox. Jupiter was identified with the god Marduk. Marduk Jupiter was the bearer of signs to the inhabited world. Lucifer, son of Jupiter. Lucifer, thus, being the son of a sun god, can only be the sun. It is in my learned opinion that Lucifer was nothing but the ousted Roman sun god Jupiter. Jupiter dethroned and demonized as Lucifer. This notion coincides along the 500-year timeline of which occurred the fall of the Roman Empire and pantheon of gods, the rise of Christianity, the compilation of biblical texts, and the full-fledged worship of Jesus Christ. Lucifer was considered the god of light, a sun god in Roman paganism. That was just an allegory of the light within us all, as all the sun gods originally symbolized. Then, as the rays break through, the sun is represented as glorying in his might. The shone of self-praise manifestly represents the bursting forth of the sun's rays. The connection between shouting, especially shouting in triumph, and brightness is very ancient. The Hebrew sahal means both to shine brightly and to cry aloud. Hillel also, which means to cry out in triumph, originally meant to be brilliant, as we see by the names Hallel, the Hebrew for morning star, and Hil-al, the Arabic for new moon. For we find that the word el, in the Hebrew, as a verb, means to shine, glitter, irradiate, and, as a noun, signifies splendor, irradiation, glory and so forth. That it is the root of the Hebrew name for the book of Psalms, which abounds in phrases of sun worship, that it occurs in all the sun worshipping passages just cited, that it is in the word Hallelujah. Hallelujah was an ancient sun worship designation, a loud cry, giving praise to the sun or sun god. Jehaleel equals a praiser of God. This Helios is Hallel, or Lucifer, and his name actually denoted the sun among many Khitan families. As a rule, however, the Khitan used the same word to denote both sun and moon. Thus Jehaleel, or Hallel, is simply Lucifer, the light bringer, whether by day or night. The Greek Helios and Latin Sol are loan words from the Hittite. Writing upon the meaning of the term Hallelujah, Eloi, which we render praise to God, he notices the fact that it is the same acclamation as Eloi, with which the Greeks began and ended their paeans, or sacred hymns in honors of Apollo the sun. The term Hillel may be derived from the Hebrew Hallel, to irradiate, to shine, but the term, to be a light-bringing complement to King Bel, would be found possibly in Hil, an issue, a progeny, and for El or Ale, second, as thus systematically reflecting a peculiar honor on him by an imputed connection with the movements of the true, original Hil, as Hail Hall, the reflex of the primary luminary of the heavens. Hel, an ancient root to shine, as in the Greek Helios sun, Hebrew Hallel, bright, and Finnic Heel bright. The soft H interchanges with S, and in other languages Sal, or Sil, is the same. Latin Sol sun, Akkadian and Turkish Sil shine. For Servius, speaking of Belus, affirms, the Phoenicians and Syrians called Cronus or Saturn Hel, all in those parts about Phoenicia, worship the sun, who in their language is called Hel, and again he says, God is called Hel in the Punic or Carthaginian tongue. Hence in El, Al, Hel, and Hal, there is but one word under these several forms, and the first use ever made of these forms was to name the sun. It is usually claimed that by the word Hallel, son of the morning, in Isaiah 14:12, the morning star, or, more correctly, one of the two stars, is meant, and the analogy with Hel, to to glitter, seems to favor the view. Closely considered, however, there is little foundation for the supposition, since Isaiah gives no intimation whatsoever that Hallel is a star. In fact, the word star was added since the word star does not appear in the Hebrew original. How did the modern versions come up with their translation? On what basis do they use the words morning star? The answer, simply by adding a word to the Hebrew text. The Hebrew text has the words, Hallel ben Shachar. That literally translates into Hallel, son of the morning. You will notice that the word star, Hebrew word, kokob, is not there at all. The modern versions translate the passage as if the Hebrew text stated, kokob shachar, ben shachar. In doing so they actually add the word star kokob, and repeat the word shachar, meaning morning or dawn. But what is the justification of the modern translation for using the words morning star? The Hebrew Hallel comes from the root HLL, meaning to shine. Thus, the Latin translation of Lucifer comes from two Latin words, lucis, meaning light, and fero, to carry, bring or bear. Neither does the Hebrew or the Latin say anything about any supposed star. Therefore, there is no reference to any star, nor the planet Venus. Heel and El are titles of the sun. Hallel, the original of Lucifer, was the personification of the sun and the shining light. O was not only a hieroglyph for the sun, O was also the first name for the sun. Provided this knowledge, consider such biblical titles as, O God, O Lord, O Jesus, O Day Star, and O Lucifer.